A member of the Big Change program asked me to record an inspirational video to help people get through the holidays. And I started taking some notes and thinking about all the tricks and tips that I would recommend for people, how to say no, how to talk about it, eat first, change the subject, all that stuff. And then it occurred to me that I really wanted to talk about something else, which was like the holidays themselves, and not just the way we celebrate those holidays. So today's December 23rd. Happy Festivus, everyone. Tomorrow night, Hanukkah starts, and it's Christmas Eve. Kwanzaa begins, I believe, on the 26th. Solstice was 2 days ago. New Year's is coming up. There's a reason in the Northern Hemisphere we have all these holidays right around the time when it's darkest, when there's the fewest daylight hours and the most nighttime hours, and when it's getting cold. And so I'm going to talk about solstice first as kind of the biological, astronomical basis of all of these holidays. And that is, we're moving from light into darkness. So traditionally, these holidays were all about fearing the darkness and coming together to give each other support, to be lights to one another in this time. So why do we have these gifts and presents? It's because we've just moved from the abundance of the fall harvest into a time where nothing's growing. Now we have to ration. Now we have to make sure we have enough to get us through the winter. And so at this moment, we give each other little gifts. We pull out a special bit of food that we've preserved and been saving as a ritual, as a statement of hope, as a statement that we know that abundance will come again. And so we're in this moment, we're telling ourselves that even though we're generally rationing this time of year, in this moment, we're going to have a little celebration because we know that the sun will return, the light will return, the crops will grow, and the world will become fruitful for us again. Now, of course, we live in a very unnatural culture. We don't have to deal with the fact that the light is disappearing because we can live in places that are lit by electricity 24/7. We don't have to shiver in the cold because we're indoors or we're in our vehicles where it's always 68 to 74 degrees temperature controlled. And we don't have to worry about lack of abundance because we can go to the supermarket and buy fruits from Peru and Chile and China anytime we want. There's no more seasonality. And yet we still feel it, right? We still feel this time of year. People get depressed. People feel lonely. And what we do, of course, is we commercialize these holidays and we end up spending tons of money and pouring huge amounts of empty calories into ourselves and in each other in an effort to make the darkness go away. Now, I understand that we want to get rid of the darkness. It's natural. But it's also natural in human history to have to live with it. It wasn't an option to get rid of the darkness. And the darkness has served a very important purpose for us. It's not just something to get through. It's not just something to endure. It's not just something to suffer through. It's not just something to hop on a plane and go to the southern hemisphere so we don't have to deal with it. The darkness is the place where things grow, where they first begin to germinate. You take a seed and you leave it on your kitchen counter under fluorescent lights, nothing's going to happen. You put it in the ground, underground, in the soil, in the humus, in the dirt. And there is where it begins to germinate and put forth its first tendrils, its first roots, its first stalk, moving upward toward the light, yes, toward the light, but it starts to grow in darkness. So the first thing I would say about this holiday season is that remember that it's a time of darkness in which we have the opportunity to incubate the seeds of the coming year. The seeds of 2017 can be planted in the next 6 or 7 days if we allow the darkness to not scare us into this fake fluorescent strobe light of culture, but instead, if we can spend time there ourselves and with our families, maybe get everyone to turn off the phones, to stop checking email and Facebook and Instagram and Snapchat and just be together in a space in which there's vulnerability, in which there's fear, in which there's love and support. And I realize not everyone's going to be able to do this, and you might be listening to this and thinking, well, hell no, that's not my family. Well, then maybe there's a person in your family, or maybe it's just you, taking some time, separating, going to a quiet space and thinking and meditating and journaling and praying and saying, what do I want to germinate this year? Let me plant it now in this time of darkness and not just distract myself with the tinsel and the light. So my holiday is Hanukkah. And I was laughing as I was thinking about what's the meaning of Hanukkah in this context. And the story of Hanukkah is a small band of faithful who are resisting a greedy, materialistic, shallow culture that's trying to impose itself on them. Sound familiar? And this group of faithful ultimately inspired the rest of the community to resist, and ultimately won independence from this imperial rule, from the rule of the Hellenistic Greek Empire. And they started out as a small band, and as a small band, they weren't able to influence the affairs of state. But once their influence spread, once people saw that they were steadfast, they became role models, and others then followed. So for me, that is the beautiful opportunity, the beautiful invitation of these holidays, is for you to walk in there and be the role model of resistance to this crazy culture of overconsumption and distraction and addiction and numbness from any kind of authentic feeling. So the symbol of Hanukkah is a menorah. More technically, it's called the Hanukkah, the Hanukkah menorah, which has 9 branches. 8 of the branches are slightly lower, they're for each day. 8 days of Hanukkah. The 9th one is elevated, it's the highest one, and it's called the Shamash, which means the servant, the helper. And the Shamash is the candle that's lit first. And the rule of the Hanukkah, of the menorah, is that the other candles can only be lit by the Shamash. So the servant, the single point of lightness, the single point of flame, is the one that has to do the service, that lights the others. And first night it lights one other. That's easy enough. And then it goes back in its place. Second night lights 2 others, and so on until it gets to the 8th night, when the entire Hanukkah is ablaze with candles. 8 candles, and above them all, the Shamash, the servant, the helper, is put in the position of greatest honor, because through the Shamash, all the others become ignited. So be the Shamash. Be the candle that is steadfast, even when there's no other light. Be the first light. And maybe you won't light anyone else this year. Right? The Hanukkah story didn't take place over a weekend. It didn't take place over 8 days. It took place over years. Years of struggle to boot the Hellenistic culture and empire and colonization out of the land. So the menorah itself is, of course, a metaphor for that, for small forces gathering, inspiring and igniting each other. And this is your chance, right? So this is your chance to go and say, well, it's just a holiday, it's just my family, I'll start again on January 2nd, but I'm just going to, go with the flow. This is too difficult. I'm just going to indulge and deal with the consequences later. You can do that. I'm not telling you what to do. But this is also an opportunity to be the Shamash, to be the single light in the darkness, to be the point of inspiration, to be, especially at this time, to be the one And you don't have to be loud about it, and you don't have to walk around criticizing other people's eggnog or roast chicken or whatever else people are eating. But people will notice if you abstain, and they'll notice if you abstain and you still stay part of it. You still stay part of the family, part of the festivities, part of the ritual of coming together against the dark and getting through it together. And if you're merry and happy and jolly and fully participatory, and you're doing puzzles and charades and games and little gifts and homemade things and poems and laughing and telling stories and jokes, while no big deal, just declining the foods you don't eat, people will notice. This is the perfect time to represent. This is the perfect time. If you care about the plant-based message, if you care about what it's done for you and what it can do for the planet, for the animals, this is your chance to be that shamash, to be the helper, to be the first light that heralds the coming of spring, the coming of light, the coming of summer, the return of the sun, the return of abundance and joy. Because God knows we live in a culture in which there's lots of cheap thrills, but not that much true joy. So this is your chance. This is an opportunity, this holiday, to walk in with that kind of mindset. I hope this video has been helpful. I would love to hear your comments, your feedback, and I wish you and everyone you love and care about a blessed, happy, meaningful holiday season and a beautiful and passionate 2017, full of joy and service and love. Be well, my friends.